Victor has gone to church. He's making a sketch of Edward based on his image shown in this copy of the Bayeux tapestry. History doesn't get any bigger than this, and I'm still hopeful we might stumble on the Saxon palace where Edward was born. Edward's failure to produce an heir may have resulted in the Battle of Hastings in 1066, but he was also responsible for the building of Westminster Abbey. As I understand it, Edward left the manor of Islip to the monastery before he died. Westminster then built the chapel in Islip in honour of Edward some years later. Jonathan's trying to work out exactly when that was.
There are a group of 3 windows and quite fine masonry in there, actually. These are 3 lancets, typical of the early 13th century. So are these clasping buttresses before they become diagonal in the later 13th century. To me, those features suggest a date 3 decades either side of 1220.
The chapel was built more than 150 years after Edward's death, which would put it in the reign of Henry III. This would make sense, as Henry was obsessed with the memory of Edward the Confessor, who'd been made a saint in 1161. Henry rebuilt Edward's Abbey at Westminster and may have been responsible for building the chapel in Islip. He was keen to popularise the figure of Saint Edward and encouraged the cult following for him that was growing in the 13th century.
The cult of St Edward is one that had been growing through the reigns of previous kings. Really flowers in Henry III's time. And what it seems to represent is a way of those Norman and Plantagenet kings giving legitimacy to their rule over the English. At the same time as, for the English themselves, Edward being the last of the legitimate Old English kings, it thus represents a kind of reconciliation focus for the French and the English.
So it's as though the Normans are saying, it's all right, Saxons, because we're related to Edward the Confessor, who you like.
Exactly.
But why would they want to come here? I can understand them wanting to go to Westminster Abbey, where Edward the Confessor was, but why would any pilgrims want to come to this place?
Well, it's widening the base of the cult and the opportunities for pilgrimage centres by celebrating his birthplace.
But I mean, what would a pilgrim expect to see something?
Yeah, architecturally, when you walk through the door, what are you going to see?
What's in there? Well, that's the tempting thing. I mean, there must be some cult object, some of his personal clothing or personal items, perhaps his old nursery toys.
We just secondary items, really, yes. not the body, but
anything
clothing
he's touched. I mean, during his life, even the water in which he washed his hands was deemed to be crackling with spiritual radioactivity. It was that potent and could then be used for miracles.
I think a load of 13th century dinky toys would be brilliant there, or the equivalent,
Hello, my name's John Gator. Time Team is fan-funded by Patreon. This vital support helps us to make new episodes. Joining Patreon gives you access to exclusive interviews, 3D models and masterclasses, plus lots more.